Bien, Hastings. We progress most satisfactorily. The course now is to identify and to remove the red herrings that obscure our true path. Where have our investigations taken us? I will remind you of those moments I considered the most important. You, of course, must decide which pertain to the murder of Elena Stewart, which are additional crimes that, while they may have no bearing on the murder, must still be solved, and what we still must learn before all questions are answered and the guilty unmasked. Are you ready, mon ami?
As ready as I'll ever be, I suppose. But could I have my sixth clue to the secret of the finger of suspicion first?
But of course. The sixth clue is telephone.
Telephone. Let's see what we have so far then. Power, lamp, desk, drawer, magnet, and now telephone. Thank you, Poirot. I'm ready to hear what you consider important about what we've learned so far.
First, what are the mysteries we are trying to unravel?
The murder of Arlena Marshall.
Of primary importance. We will explore the possible suspects presently, but let us take a moment for motive. What are your thoughts on the reason Arlena Marshall was murdered?
Jealousy.
More than one person would have reason to object to her attentions to Monsieur Redfern?
The murder of Millie Parsons.
We now know enough of the circumstances in the crime to point towards a killer with motive and opportunity. The anthropology instructor, Gideon Fell. And unless Mr. Fell is on Seadrift Island or in Leathercombe Bay in disguise, he is not a suspect in Arlena Marshall's murder.
Yet there were several persons who either intimately or peripherally involved in the case on Seadrift Island.
True. And 2 points remain to be cleared up. Can you name them?
Was Gideon Fell the man you mentioned in your story of voodoo?
The one who awakens in the night in the greatest of fear? Yes, it was he.
Because of voodoo?
Is it so hard to accept? If you accept that he himself believed in the power of voodoo?
Is Linda Marshall involved in voodoo?
The signs seem to point in that direction, I am afraid. Once we hear from Miss Porter and learn what Mademoiselle Marshall hides in her puzzle box, we will have our final answers, I think.
The murder of Alice Corrigan.
We know little of the details of this case. Only that the husband was implicated and cleared due to the unbreakable alibi. And this crime was committed near Brixham as well. It may yet prove to be connected to the Millie Parsons case.
I thought the police proved that Fell couldn't have been the killer.
There may be another connection, Hastings. Do not rule it out.
The activities of fifth columnists.
Yes, it seems clear that Mrs. Castle watches, but not in the name of England.
Voodoo on Seadrift Island.
Yes, and we have the indications it is being practiced here and by young Mrs. Marshall.
The ghost of Tom Cutter.
Yes, the ghost who is not the ghost. Do you have any theories as to who the ghost might be?
Mr. North.
He would certainly seem to be the most likely candidate.
The birdwatcher, Mr. North.
Yes, the report from Scotland Yard, which I hope you have read. It tells us he is the smuggler. But of what? Is he allied with the Fifth Communists? Or someone else?
Bullets and Mr. Blatt.
Yes, Monsieur Blatt is shot at, but fails to mention the fact. Shot at by whom?
A German U-boat?
Possibly. If it were the authorities, I am sure Colonel Weston would have been informed. Yet he did not find the incident of sufficient interest to tell anyone. He even makes up the transparent lie of storm damage. Why? Yes, all of these mysteries still bedevil us to greater or lesser degree. Now I will list the characters in our little drama. Do you believe that we can eliminate anyone from any of the mysteries we pursue?
Colonel Weston.
But of course, Colonel Weston is an old friend with the uncompromising belief in the rule of law.
Mrs. Hughes.
I agree that we can safely eliminate Madame Hughes. Witnesses will easily establish she was tending to her various business ventures during the time of the murder.
Albert Bagby.
Of course. While the Monkshead pub does not open until 11, Monsieur Bagby could not have made his way to Cutter's Cove and back again in 20 minutes.
Will Jenks.
If the misunderstanding between Will and his young lady had involved Elena, it would have been Gladys who might want her dead. But such was not the case.
Gladys Narracott.
Can Gladys have slipped away from her duties at the hotel long enough to commit the crime? It is possible. But when faced with what she believed was her young man's unfaithfulness, her character drove her to sorrow, not murder. Besides, she suspected it was Linda Marshall who was playing up to Will, not Elena.
Henry Bailey.
The estimable barman. I myself can testify that he was in the bar during the time of the murder.
George Strum.
His hands? They are certainly hands most powerful, and George may have abandoned the raking of the tennis court long enough to commit the crime. But his movements are well known to all, in case he is needed on the bathing beach. He could not count on his absence being overlooked. And again, of course, where is his motive? Now let us turn our attention to the more likely suspects. Which is your choice as murderer?
Stephen Lane.
A man so consumed by his zealotry, he has lost his position as a minister of God? The religious fanatic is indeed a man who could be driven to take it upon himself to personally destroy the evil he sees.
Christine Redfern.
On the face of it, the most likely suspect? The jealousy for her is the most immediate and intense. Yet she too would seem to have the unimpeachable alibi, according to Mademoiselle Marshall.
Patrick Redfern.
Again, an obsession that Elena Marshall has decided to end? The lover spurned? Yet where is the opportunity? His movements are witnessed by many, including myself, until he set off in the rowboat with Mademoiselle Brewster.
Linda Marshall.
Again, empathy? To protect him from the woman who makes him the cuckold in the eyes of all the world? Already she is attracted by the unhealthy interests. Already she knows the violence that can strike without warning. Yet she would seem to have the unimpeachable alibi thanks to Madame Redfern.
Kenneth Marshall.
The jealous husband? Even the cool customer like Captain Marshall may have the fires that burn deep inside.
And there's the money motive too.
Yes, the background check of Scotland Yard should reveal if he has the reverses in business.
Major Barry.
For Major Barry, a man who has lived through the violence of war, an obsession rebuffed by Madame Marshall may indeed have turned to more violence.
Horace Blatt.
It is true the man has secrets. He would also have had the opportunity to slip quietly ashore at Cutter's Cove and depart in his sailboat during the time of the murder.
Emily Brewster.
The athletic Mademoiselle Brewster is a woman strong enough to strangle another, as your experiment proved? And we have not determined a sufficient alibi for her, I think. And yet she is another like Monsieur Blatt, par example, who apparently has no motive for the crime at all.
Hilary Castle. Alina could have figured out that she was betraying her country.
Self-preservation. I did not see among her many attractive qualities any indication that Mrs. Marshall possessed the instincts of a detective. Still, it is a possibility.
Rosamond Darnley.
The murder of empathy, to protect the man she truly loves. She is a strong woman who has succeeded in the business world. It is possible she would be capable of such an act.
Carrie Gardner.
Another who is hiding something? Would she strike down the woman who ruined her husband's business?
Oakley Gardner.
The likable Mr. Gardner, who takes so long to find the knitting wool and who was ruined by Arlena Marshall? Voila! There we have it then. Barring new evidence against any of those we have eliminated, there are 12 suspects. Some would seem to have no motive, others no opportunity. But at this stage, we must keep our minds open to all possibilities. You agree?
Absolutely.
Then when you are ready, we will return to Seadrift Island. It is late in the afternoon. In only hours, the truth will reveal itself and a killer will face the ultimate court. Hastings, we are agreed Mrs. Castle may, as you say, attempt to do the bunk? It would be wise to make sure she does not destroy the evidence against her.
Time for a raid on the safe?
Précisément. I think now would be an excellent time to remove the contents of their safe. But the signal lantern, it is missing. Why? Mademoiselle Gladys, will you help me by answering some questions concerning the death of Madame Marshall?
Oh, yes, sir. I'll help if I can.
You were on this floor, cleaning all morning?
Yes, sir. Just like every day. Clean, clean, clean.
Did you see Captain Marshall at all this morning?
Yes, sir. He came up to his room not long after 10:30. I heard the sound of his typewriter a little later.
When was that?
Oh, I would say about 5 minutes to 11.
Did you see anyone else on this floor this morning?
No, sir. But I was cleaning the rooms, so while I was in one, anybody could have walked past.
You cleaned Mademoiselle Linda Marshall's room?
Yes, sir. As always.
Did you do the fireplace?
There wasn't anything to do, sir. There had been no fire lit.
And there was nothing in the fireplace?
No, sir. It was perfectly all right.
Do you recall who had the late bath this morning?
Late bath? Oh, I know what you mean. I remarked to Mrs. Castle only a little while ago. I said that it was funny someone was having a bath. It was nearly 12 o'clock.
And who was it who had the bath?
That I couldn't say, sir. I heard the water going down the waste pipe. That's all.
And that's a clue, is it?
Of the utmost importance. Did you perhaps notice a bottle missing from any of the rooms?
A bottle, sir? What kind of bottle?
No, Hastings. The glass bottle found at the bottom of the rocky bath.
No, sir. I don't think I've ever seen that bottle before.
Thank you, mademoiselle. You may resume your duties.
Yes, sir? No more jars to open?
No. That is happily all in the past.
This looks important. I will keep it in my notebook. This room belongs to Mr. Blatt. I say, Poirot, not the usual kit for a gentleman sailor. A revolver, apparently owned by Horace Blatt. The revolver is loaded.
What's this? What are you doing in here?
I have been charged with investigating the murder of Elena Marshall.
I don't believe she was shot. Was she?
No?
Then kindly return my property to me.
Unfortunately, we have no choice, Hastings. I do not think we should further inconvenience him right now. Monsieur Redfern, may I impose upon you again?
Of course, Monsieur Poirot. My nerves are a bit steadier now.
Monsieur Redfern, how long had you known Elena Marshall?
3 months?
I understand you met casually at a cocktail party?
Yes, that's how it came about.
Captain Marshall tells me that you and his wife did not know each other well.
That's not exactly true. I saw a fair amount of her one way and another.
Was your wife aware of your friendship with Madame Marshall?
I believe I mentioned to my wife I'd met her.
But she did not know how often you were seeing her?
Perhaps not.
Did you arrange to meet Madame Marshall here?
I suppose it's no good my fencing with you now. I was crazy about the woman. Mad. Infatuated. Anything you like. She wanted me to come down here. Well, I would have agreed to do any mortal thing she liked.
Did Madame Marshall return your regard?
She pretended to. But I think she was one of those women who lose interest in a man once they've got him body and soul. See here, I've told you the truth. But how much of this has got to be made public? If it all comes out, it's going to be pretty rough on my wife. I know. I may sound like the worst kind of hypocrite. But the real truth is, I care deeply for my wife. The other? It was a madness. Kind of idiotic fool thing men do. But Christine is different. She's real. Badly as I treated her, I've known all along that she was the person who really counted. I wish I could make you believe that.
But I do believe it, monsieur. Have no doubt that I do believe it. Was Madame Marshall afraid if her husband learned the truth?
She was a bit nervous, yes. I'm not sure I'd go as far as to say afraid.
Was there talk of marriage between you and Madame Marshall?
No, never. Arlena was perfectly satisfied married to Marshall. He's a well-respected businessman. She never saw me as a possible husband. I was just one of a succession of poor mutts. Just something to pass the time with.
And yet knowing this did not alter your feelings for her?
No.
Had you an appointment with Madame Marshall this morning?
No. We usually met on the beach.
Were you surprised not to find her there this morning?
Yes, I was. Very surprised. I couldn't understand it at all.
Can you think of a reason why she went to Cutter's Cove this morning?
I haven't the faintest idea. It wasn't like Arlena.
Do you know of anyone in London who might have the grudge against her?
Honestly, I can't think of anyone.
Do you know anyone with the initials J.N.?
J.N.? You mean Jimmy Nash?
Tell me about him.
Well, Jimmy was just one of the crowd. A photographer. Took a splendid picture of Christine and me, as a matter of fact. But now that I think of it, I did hear he and Arlena were an item at one time. Haven't seen much of him lately. I'd heard he got himself into some sort of trouble over money. He just dropped out of sight. Monsieur Poirot, if there aren't any more questions, I think I'd like to be with my wife.
Of course, monsieur. I think you will find that she would like that as well.
Afternoon, sir. Care for a cocktail?
No, I thank you, Henry. May I inquire of your movements this morning?
Seeing to my duties as usual, sir. Cleaning up in here, checking stock, helping make the dining room ready for lunch. Mrs. Castle can vouch for me.
Merci.